Morning, folks. Welcome to Monday's edition of your fireside demo at Lake Superior Art Glass. Today we're going to be doing a Sea Anemone Pendant. As I mentioned last week, this is something that I kind of came up with in 2008. I was doing my apprenticeship for environmental education in the Puget Sound of Washington, and we had a touch tank with tons of sea life in it, and I was really inspired by that and wanted to try making sea anemones. And so I learned about this technique, and it's just a perfect representation of a sea anemone, and there's even these little bubbles on top that they really add to it. So let me grab a sample really quick so I can show you guys what this is actually going to look like. All right, here it is. It's really three-dimensional. You can see all those little bubbles on the tip of each tentacle. That's actually part of the process, and really it's important for the process. It'd be really hard to get that three-dimensional blossom without those bubbles. It's doable, but it's a lot easier with the bubbles. So that is what we'll be making. The one I'm going to do today is a little bit more of a forest green, but same design, same concept. Hope everyone had a great weekend. I know I did. Got a bunch of house projects done, got out for some great walks in the woods. Yeah, it's been interesting having all this extra time, but it's a great way to get these projects done that have been putting off for a long time. So thanks again for those of you who put in orders. I saw more come throughout the weekend, so we're busy shipping those out today. We've got a huge stack for the USPS mail carrier today, and more stuff going out tomorrow. So thanks again for that. As always, chime in if you guys have questions. I'll do my best to answer them and keep up to them while I'm working. And yeah, looking forward to showing you guys this technique. It happens pretty quick, but it's really cool. It's a fun process, and it's a very basic version of flower implosions or compressions. So I'll explain a little bit more about that during the demo as well. See if I got the camera focus set up right. All right, perfect. So we're going to start with a 12 millimeter piece of clear glass rod and start by forming a gather on the end. Just heating up the end of it, and then basically tipping it at an upward angle so the glass wants to settle down and kind of collect or gather on the tip of the rod. So I'm just looking at our notes here about what the demo schedule is for this week. Nothing official scheduled tomorrow. We will do a 10 a.m. demo for sure, just not quite decided on what that is. We have openings for our custom pendants, so if you have an idea to do a designer or custom pendant, definitely submit that. That could be tomorrow's 10 a.m. demo. I'm also planning to do kind of a marble tour where I'm going to take you guys through a tour of all the different marble series and styles that I make and what goes into them, what the inspirations are, and a little bit more background about that. So I'll be doing that at some point this week as well. So I've got my gather form, about the diameter of maybe a penny. And now I'm going to squish it onto my graphite marbling plate. It's just below the frame here. But I'm going to basically go straight up and down with this rod and squish this glob flat so it becomes a disc on the end of the rod. pretty gentle process. It's not too aggressive, but now you can see I've got a disc there. Okay? We're gonna think of that disc kind of like a tire, which is really important for this technique. Right now I'm gonna heat up the bottom of the disc and then press it onto a flower frog. That's one of these guys. It's a disc with a bunch of spikes coming out of it. And that's going to put indentations in the glass. They're really designed for floral arrangements, I believe specifically Japanese floral arrangements. I think it's called ikebana or something like that. But we use it to put indents in glass. So I got the face of this hot. Again, I'm going to go straight up and down. And press it onto there, putting a bunch of indentations in the bottom of that disc. Okay, so now I'm going to fill those indentations with a tiny dot of green glass. And that's going to trap the air in there. That's how those bubbles are achieved. All right, so I filled in basically 2 whorls. There's a center dot and then 2 whorls around that. If you notice, I didn't quite hit center when I came down on it, but that's okay. It's really important that you fill in those whorls symmetrically and don't try to go based on the disc shape itself. And then right now, we're heating up the tread of the tire. Remember, we're going to think of that disc like a tire. And I'm trying to direct most of my heat right onto the tread of it. We're going to just be building up heat at this point. So this is basically a technique that I learned from John Kabuki. He's world-renowned for his flower marbles. And I took a class from him in 2008. Actually, while I was doing my internship out in Washington. And that was the first professional level class I'd ever taken. It was just so inspiring to watch someone like that work, who has just, totally mastered and refined this technique. And so I really learned a lot from him. So now we go to a pretty steep angle. We're about a 45-degree angle, a downward angle. Still focusing that flame right on the tread of the tire. And what that's doing is it's heating up that clear glass on the tread or on the outer parts of that disc, and it brings it down and around, and in turn it's pushing up those dots and making them blossom on the inside. See if we can get the camera to focus on that there. Pretty hard, but you can kind of see there's some spikes in there now. I'm going to keep doing that a little while longer. Now, just me stopping to show you guys that could have a big impact on this process. I lost a bunch of heat there. So we'll see what happens. Shouldn't be a huge deal, but ideally it is something you want to do in one shot. So now I'm basically trying to find the balance between continuing to heat that disc and bring more glass down, but also minimizing any indentations in the bottom. So that's the tendency, is you're bringing all that glass down and around, but the center inside is really cold, and so it stays put, and you create this big cavity, which is a really gnarly spot to trap a bubble. So once you get those tentacles essentially blossoming, then I shift to more of a horizontal angle again like this to make sure that void closes, whereas if I was at a steep angle, I'd be trapping air inside of that void. All right, so it's pretty much rounded out. There's no more cavity anymore. And now what I'm going to do is just continue to heat until I see those air bubbles get really round. A lot of times air bubbles in glass are considered a flaw. However, if they're put there intentionally, it's definitely not a flaw. And structurally, you just want to make sure that they're round. If they're long and pointed or have acute angles to them, that's going to be really stressful on the glass. And so just by continuing to heat and getting that glass liquid all the way to the core, that's going to help those bubbles kind of consolidate and become round versus pointed. They were originally all really long and pointed from the shape of the spike that made that indentation. There we go. Now they're getting pretty round. I'm going to give it a little paddle just to flatten out the back side, getting it set up to be that pendant shape. All right, now we're going to let that cool for a while and I'll put a back on it. So hopefully we can get the camera to start picking some of this up here. You can see all those tentacles with the bubbles on top there. All right, now we'll put some black glass on the back side. It's going to make that color stand out. So I always put a pretty good dollop of black glass on the backside, and then I remove a decent amount. And the reason for that is so that by putting a big dollop, I can spread it out and help to cover most of the surface area on the back. But it would end up being a really thick backing, which I don't need. So once I've covered that surface area and made contact, I can pull some glass away to leave the correct amount of glass without kind of mitigating the contact area for the backing. All right, I've got it, that profile shaped up now. Now I'll stick a puntee on the back. Those of you who watched this weekend, did you guys learn about puntees yesterday? I think that's when that video went out. It's bridging the axis. So I've been working on the back side, now I want to work on the front. So I need to bridge the axis and get to the other side of the piece, so I can work on the back, or the front rather. Use my marble mold to help round things out just a little bit. All right. there it is, not the most centered one I've ever made. First one I've actually made in quite a while. But that just helps me determine where that loop is going to go. So I'll pick the point where it's the most symmetrical, and we'll put a loop on there. So I'm just really making sure that loop is flowed into the pendant. There's no acute angles there. There we go. So there's our finished pendant. See the three-dimensional spikes there with the bubbles on the tip. Okay, now we'll finish it up. A little tap breaks that punty free. It wasn't fully melted on, it was just kind of stuck on, like a tack weld. All right. One last glimpse at it. It's obviously really hot still. You can see those spikes and tentacles there. And again, this is going to be green with a black backing once it cools. So now we're starting to see a little more definition there. So you can see it actually still looks pretty centered, even though my initial anemone was pretty off center. Based on where I put the loop, you can still make it look pretty on center. So that is how I make my sea anemone pendants. So I do those in about, I don't know, at least 8 different colors, I would say. I know several are available on the website, so if that's something you guys have been thinking about, you've probably seen me make them for a long time. They are available online, as is all of our clearance stuff. We really appreciate you guys supporting us through that. We're going to do a spring cleaning sale here in April anyway for the gallery hop, and so we just put it all online. So some awesome pieces in there for anywhere up to 75% off. And we have a ton of stuff available on our website. We've been adding to that for years. And it is a hard thing to do because everything is one of a kind, but we try to put things on there that we can replicate within reason. Nothing's going to be identical, but we try to make it pretty close. And all of our swag is available online too. So we've got our regular Lake Superior Art Glass t-shirts, I believe, are on there. And then all of our Hot AF apparel is on there. So Matt Olin designed this Hot AF graphic, and most people know him for his Cold AF one, and I found out he had the Hot AF one already done. I was like, well, that's perfect for what we do. So we've got a whole line of apparel based on this Hot AF logo. We've got our tag with our logo on it there, and the hoodies are probably my favorite. So we've got a bunch of other graphics on those. Matt put together this logo for us as well, the 3 circles with the different tools we use. And then we also wanted to have 2100 24/7 because our furnace, the glass is at about 2100 degrees, and it's at that temperature 24/7, 365. That furnace stays running all the time. We shut it off right now just because we're kind of in idle mode, but yeah, some cool graphics. I love the swag. These hoodies are Bella Canvas. They're super, super nice, really soft, really durable. I've got a couple of them. Wear them every day. So that stuff's all available on the website, so check that out. Stay tuned, 10 a.m. every morning this week. We'll be giving more live demonstrations. Send us your questions, and we're probably going to put out a poll maybe about what people want to see me make. If there's something you've seen that I've made in the past and you really love it and you're curious to know how it's made, we can potentially do those as a demo as well. Some might be a really long demo, but throw out your ideas and we'll see what we can do. Levi asked how much the hoodie is. I think they're $65, something like that. Some of them are embroidered with Lake Superior Art Glass logo, like mine here, and some of them have the Hot AF logo there. So there's a few variations, a few colors, a lot of cool artwork on them, and they're super nice. So yeah, definitely check those out. Yeah, if you guys have questions, send us questions via email, through the website, pendant ideas, suggestions for what you'd like to see me make. Throw them out there, and remember to keep supporting small business, you guys. Thanks so much, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10.